I'll tell you one thing that
Hey, when my girls start to trip and hate before escape, I call Sirius XM 98. Yeah, Thursdays the Foxxhole 7 to 9 to talk to ZoWilliams before I lose my mind. Yo, I need advice on my relationship, cause I'm about to start breaking. I can't take it no more. I got to holler at Zo, the relationship pro. Before I pack up and go, I got my foot out the door and down for leaving. But first, let me holler at Zo, the voice of reason. I got one foot out the door and down for leaving. But first, let me holler at Zo, the voice of reason.
Ladies and gentlemen, ZoWilliams rising, back in the foxhole. Regardless to what anybody thinks, the foxhole is still the business. If you don't believe me, call me right now, 855-369-9898. I'm ZoWilliams, ZoWilliams Rising, the voice of reason. And trust me, you know how we do on this show. We come with the craziest topics. We're not afraid to talk about anything. Tonight's topic, it's no exception. We're talking about something that's really pervasive all over the world, as it pertains to relationships. Sister wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriage, and group marriages. Now, dude, that covers everything, okay? We're going to talk about bigamy. What's the difference between bigamy and polygyny? Polygyny is what I said. What's the difference between polygyny and polygamy? Does God support polygamy? I mean, somebody talk to me. Or does God support monogamy? 855-369-9898. And whether we're married or not, aren't we basically, let's just be honest, with the infidelity rate so high in American relationships, aren't we all just bigamists anyway? If we're going to break down the definition, some secretive sexual liaisons, why do we have to be married by law? Do people, women, who are in polygamous marriages, do they have the same marital rights as a woman who is in a monogamous marriage? I don't know, but we've got great guests. We've got authors. It's all going down. I need you to tweet me at Foxxhole, Foxxhole, or hit me on my personal Twitter page at ZoWilliams. I'm reading all tweets. I'm taking all phone calls. 855-369-9898. Once again, tonight's topic, sister wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriage, and group marriages. You better call me right now. It's going to be crazy. We're talking about current events in the news that's in regards to this show. Trust me, it's going to be crazy. I'll be back in 2.2. Get on the phone. Let's do a little mind sex. Yo, back in the building. ZoWilliams, the voice of reason, Foxxhole Radio, Sirius XM 98. Get to your phone lines right now. I need your opinion on this. Tonight's topic, of course, is called Sister Wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriages, group marriage. I mean, if you're the chick on the side, is that like polyamory? A lot of people don't know what all of these terms mean. A lot of people don't know the difference between bigamy and polygamy. We have a little glossary of terms, but before I get to those, I like to read the questions, and we have some great questions here lined up for you. My question is, because if you read the stories, a lot of people, report abuse in polygamous, relationships, polygamous marriages. But it's not like, monogamous marriages don't, suffer the same type of abuse. But I'm interested to know what the divorce rate is amongst polygamists. Is it higher? Is it lower? Are people in, polygamous marriages happier? You speak to a few Mormons, they seem to believe so. No disrespect to the Mormons. Joseph Smith, their prophet, dude had 33 wives. We got a lot of information, a lot of facts on that, too. We're going to cover it all. I need you to get to your phone lines, 855-369-9898. Do sister wives share some of the same marital rights as a monogamous wife. I mean, if you got a sister wife, and I believe that there's some type of hierarchy, you know, the first wife, then I'm the second wife, I'm the third wife, and so on and so forth. Does the second and third wife on down, do they share the same marital rights? Or is there some type of pecking order, right? If the husband dies, who gets the assets? Interesting stuff here. How are misogyny, how is misogyny and polygamy related? And is it possible to be completely faithful while practicing polygamy? Like, how does fidelity work in a polygamous relationship? That's kind of interesting. I'm not going to cheat on none of y'all. I'm content with all of y'all. How does that work? I mean, because from my understanding, they're always adding. This is your new co-wife. And this is your new sister. And what about jealousy? Because, I've watched a lot of documentaries. I've read a couple of books this week on the topic. And a lot of the women in polygamous, as it pertains to the Mormon side of things, if you're from Utah, call me right now. If you've escaped, I'm just saying, if you've escaped that kind of lifestyle and you want to talk about it, you have a platform here tonight, 855-369-9898. You're listening to ZoWilliams, the voice of reason, on Foxxhole Radio. Tonight's topic, sister wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriage, and group marriage. Let me ask this. What's the difference between Muslim polygamy and Mormon polygamy? Is there a difference? What does the Quran say? A lot of people twist it up a little taste. I can have as many wives as I want. No, the Quran says you can only have 4 wives in an attempt to mimic the prophet. And it also says, but you got to treat them all the same. Now, how easy is that? That's just like saying you can only have 1 wife. Because if you say you can have 4 or 5 wives, but you got to treat them all the same, equally, fair, I don't. Somebody's going to be upset, right? A lot of those women in that polygamous, situation, I see the documentaries, it seems like they're swallowing the jealousy. They're trying to cope with it because they feel like this is a part of their religion. This is how they please their God. Kind of crazy. Call me right now, 855-369-9898. My producing team just handed me a list of definitions. Because I was confused in the beginning, the difference between polygamy and bigamy. Well, it says bigamy is a crime of marrying during the continuance of a lawful marriage. In other words, you marry, but didn't Granddad do that to some degree? Granddad was married to Grandmama, had 12 children with her, and had a whole nother family on the other side of town. Is that bigamy? Is it? Somebody call me right now, 855-369-9898. That's what it says. Bigamy is not committed if a prior marriage has been terminated. In other words, don't build a new family before you close out the old one. That's interesting. In the U.S., if a husband or wife is absent and unheard of for 7, for 7 or in some states 5 years, wow. In other words, if you disappear for 5 to 7 years, then it ain't bigamy. Crazy. Monandry. That's an interesting term. Having one husband at one time. I wonder if men could deal with a polyandrous woman. We got a lot of double standards. You can't make more money than a dude. You can't make more money than your dude without him getting upset. And I'm telling you, the sociologists, the studies are out there. A lot of domestic violence comes from the challenging of traditional patriarchal roles in the family. So if the woman is making more money and experiencing more freedom, then more domestic violence happens. What happens if she's polyandrous? What if you're just the dude on the side instead of her being the chick on the side? What if you're the dude on the side? Could you handle it? 855-369-9898. We've got another one. Monogamy, of course, having one wife at a time. Monogamy is a Greek term. Mono means one. Gamos means marriage, one marriage. Then you have the open marriage / open relationship. A lot of people in Hollywood seem to be participating in that. Monique, an advocate of open marriages, open relationships. It's rumored that Will and Jada, but that's a rumor. Allegedly. The Mormons don't call themselves polygamists, I guess. They like to use the term plural marriage. In Mormon history terms, it's not just more than one spouse, but it's called celestial marriage. And, of course, they have magical underwear that go along with it and all type of rituals or whatever. And they believe that if they keep having sex and having babies, that at some point they'll become gods. This is real stuff. 855-369-9898 is the number to dial. Then we have polyamory, a lifestyle which allows for more than one deep love simultaneously. Now, here's the tricky thing. Is it wrong? I mean, because the way it's broken down, it's okay to love people one at a time, a person one at a time. That's okay throughout your lifetime. At different times, I've experienced love with different people. But is it wrong? Is it immoral to experience love, for a bunch of people simultaneously? That's a cold situation. How do you, break that down? 855-369-9898. Hit me on Twitter at ZoWilliams. Hit me on Twitter at Foxxhole, Foxxhole. And then, of course, here's the term polygamy, the condition or practice of having more than one spouse at a time. Poly means many, gamos, marriages, many marriages. Then you have polygyny, the condition of practice or practice of having more than one wife at one time. And again, it means many females, polygyny. Oh, man, this is crazy. Polyandry, the condition of having more than one husband at one time. Andros means male. I know dudes couldn't deal with that. I know it. I just know. And then a lot of times they'll say, well, polyandry. And why don't the callers call me and tell me what you think? Do you think women are better suited for polygamy than men? I think it benefits the man. You get 7, 8, 9, 10 different women if you want and have children or whatever. Or do you think polyandry is better for the women? Somebody call me, 855-369-98. We got a great guest on right now. I'm going to intro my author. If you just tuned in, we're talking about sister wives. And I just don't see them being able to deal with that, man. I saw some documentaries and it was crazy. Sister wives, a spellbinding look into the world of polygamy, plural marriage, and group marriages. Get to your phone lines, 855-369-9898. My website is www.ZoWilliams.com. Follow me on Twitter at ZoWilliams. I'm going to intro my guest now. Brother's name is Stephen Singular, a 2-time New York Times bestselling author, grew up in Linden, Kansas. In 1972, he graduated with a degree from the University of Kansas and became a freelance writer in New York. His articles have appeared in New York Magazine, Psychology Today, Inside Sports, the New York Times Magazine, Rolling Stone, and American Photo. From 1983 to 1987, he was a staff writer at the Denver Post. Since then, he's published 20 books about high-profile crimes, social criticism, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Please call us right now and converse with the brother, 855-369-9898. Tweet us at Foxxhole, at Foxxhole. You know what it is. Get at us. Stephen Singular. Welcome to the Voice of Reason. Talk to me, man.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Thanks.
Wow. What is going on with this polygamy thing?
Well, I think we learned some things from the recent trial of Warren Jeffs. I mean, I've been following this for 5 years or so, 5 or 6 years. My book about Warren Jeffs, called When Men Become Gods, came out in 2008, and so I've been following this for quite a while, but some of the stuff that came out in that trial was totally new to me, and I think shocking even for people who have followed it. So there's always been more to learn about what Jeffs has actually done since he became their prophet or appointed himself their prophet.
Wow. If you're just catching that, Warren Jeffs is a 55-year-old cat who is the leader of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Their leader was recently found guilty of sexually assaulting two girls ages 12 and 15 whom he took as polygamous wives. During the trial, Jeffs claimed basically these women, let me ask you this, Stephen, because there's a lot of incest going on here too as well, right?
Yeah, incest was a problem in the community, and underage marriage, forced marriage, a wide number of things. Many people don't know much about the background of all of this, and what happened was that, as you said, Joseph Smith founded the Mormon religion in the 1830s, and then they practiced polygamy until the 1890s, and when Utah wanted to become a state, the United States of America said, you can become a state, but you've got to get rid of polygamy. And that was sort of the foundation, in some ways, of their religious beliefs. And so the people who didn't want to give it up decided to break off from the Mormon Church. Utah did become a state in the 1890s, and they went on and formed the Latter-day Saints Church, which is the big buildings in Salt Lake City, and most of what most people know as the Mormon Church. These people broke off and went as far away from Salt Lake City as they could without getting close to Phoenix. They found this very isolated area on the border of Arizona and Utah, and they basically set up camp there, and they had great numbers of children. I mean, there are stories that I wrote about where kids have 75 brothers and sisters, or families or even bigger than that. And so in the 1950s, the governor of Arizona decided that people shouldn't be living this way, that it was all wrong and a sin and all of that. So they raided the town. There are two towns there that actually straddle the border. One is called Hilldale, Utah. One is called Colorado City, Arizona. But it's just one community, and it was always run by one man called the prophet, who believed that he was the only one who could speak directly to God. Anyway, the governor of Arizona orders a raid. They come in at dawn. They take away 263 women and children, separate them from the fathers, and they thought, well, this will be the way to, solve this problem. But it backfired completely on Arizona and the governor. There was the press there. They showed women crying and children being torn from their families and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so it was a political disaster. The governor didn't get reelected, and so that was in 1953. For the next 50 years, until 2003, 2004, law enforcement did not want to touch this community. The politicians did not want to touch this community, in part because many of them had polygamy and that part of the Mormon faith in their background. And they were left totally and completely alone. The laws that applied everywhere else in the United States did not apply in this community. All of the police force took orders not from law enforcement authorities above them, but from the prophet. They were all involved in polygamous relationships, and the laws in that town were totally and completely different. So there was a whole history there of basically not having law enforcement enforce there. And so what began to happen in the 1990s and then on into the new millennium is that women who had been abused, some of it was incest, as you pointed out, some of it was being forced into underage marriage, rape, etc., decided to break away. Many of them did not even understand that there were laws against these things, that the law was being broken.
That was their lifestyle, right?
That was their lifestyle and their religion, which is so very, very important to consider if that's the only thing you were raised in this terribly isolated community. And they are the original, really the heroes of my book. The book, as I said, is called When Men Become Gods, but the subtitle is is polygamous Warren Jeffs, his Cult of Fear, and the Women Who Fought Back. And it wasn't law enforcement that actually began to investigate this. I mean, it was, but they were prodded and pushed very hard by a group of courageous, really brave women who were able to sort of break away from this and go to the authorities in Utah and Arizona and say, look, these people are breaking the law. This is not about religion. This is about child abuse.
So,
and
Stephen,
that's where the story really starts to turn.
So, Stephen, let's do this really quickly. We have a couple of callers on right now, and they've been waiting for a minute. I want to get one of them in. Reggie from D.C., you say that polygamy is doomed. Why?
I'm thinking it's doomed because you can't treat every wife equally. And, I mean, there's only so much love to go around. Love is all-consuming. You know, it takes everything you have and then some. And so for that definition to be what it is, you can't spread that type of love around between that many people. It just isn't a possible thing. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And you spoke about the Quran before. I mean, it says you can have up to 4 wives, but one is better if you only knew. So
that's what it says, yeah.
Right. It said you can have 4, but one, if you really knew what was going on, you would have one. I mean, that's something to talk about.
Right. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it, Reggie out of D.C. Listen, we got Sardonyx Jade on the phone out of L.A. Talk to me, Sardonyx.
I have no idea how I would operate in a polygamous situation. I think polyandry would work better just because men are always trying to have multiple women to satisfy their needs, and women end up getting the short end of the stick, even if it's a marriage to one man.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Appreciate the call, Sardonyx. Thanks for reaching out. 855-369-9898. Sister Wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriage, and group marriage. That's what we're doing right now. I'm on right now with a special guest, author Stephen Singular. He wrote an incredible book, and I'm telling you guys right now, it's a call to action. Go get his book, When Men Become Gods, Mormon Polygamist Warren Jeffs, his cult of fear, and the women who fought back. We're about to take a quick break. I need you to call me right now, 855-369-9898. We're going to go deeper into this at ZoWilliams. Holla at me. Be back in 2 seconds. Yo! Zometheus Rising back in the building. Tonight's topic, Sister Wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriage, and group marriage show. That's what we're talking about tonight. It's a crazy topic. We got a great guest on right now. Author, extremely accomplished author, Stephen Singular. He wrote an incredible book, and I urge you to go get it. A lot of people ask me for a book list. I only have authors on that I think, are up to salt, worthy of it, and this guy is. He wrote a book called When Men Become Gods. Let me ask you about this. When men become gods, because I know this is a part of the Mormon religion. When men become gods, Mormon polygamist Warren Jeffs, his cult of fear, and the women who fought back. On a side note, really quickly, the prosecution showed evidence that Jeffs, the dude, had over 78 plural wives, including 12 girls married at age 16 and another 12 and 15 or younger. So this dude has 78 wives. Imagine how many kids he had. Talk to me, man. What is When Men Become Gods? Why did you name your book that?
Well, it was to show, I think, basically that, if the idea there is that if you marry at least 3 women, you will be on your way to becoming a god. And I was writing about criminal behavior here. I mean, I'm not arguing against the Mormon religion or any of that. I'm writing specifically about criminal
their belief.
Behavior.
Right.
It showed, like, if men start to think of themselves as God in terms of, owning women or controlling women or children or anyone else, there can be some very bad consequences. That's the point of the title.
Wow, this is crazy. This is good stuff. I got a couple more questions for you. Specifically here, why did Utah and Arizona allow FLDS? That's the abbreviation of, their belief or their religion. What is it? Latter-day Saints?
Yeah,
fundamentalist Latter-day Saints to get away with polygamy for so long. Why did Arizona and Utah specifically allow them to get away with that?
Well, it's some of what I was saying earlier about a number of people there in politics. I mean, we have two, Mitt Romney, there was an article on him recently, there's polygamy in his background. I mean, it's not exactly the first thing that people like him want to talk about. And they just sort of hoped that this whole problem would go away and not surface. The Mormon Church, the regular conventional Mormon Church, does not want anything whatsoever to do with this subject or this problem. They disavowed polygamy a long time ago, and they just wish this would go away. So that's a big part of the answer. And as I said earlier, it was the women who broke away who were able to actually escape. Some of them, ran out of town on foot. Some of them got rides out of town to actually have the courage to get out of this, really what's it called, and then go to the authorities and urge them to start prosecuting people. And the book is all about how an investigator came into this community and started doing a criminal investigation. He was the most hated person in the community. As I said earlier, the police were all polygamists. They hated him. They didn't want to work with him. And it's about him going in there and trying to figure out who's breaking the law, who's marrying an underage girl, et cetera, et cetera. And he brought indictments, and he helped bring some of these people to justice.
Right. And I know you don't want to get into the religious aspect of it or trying to condemn them, but we live in America, and a lot of people misuse and manipulate that book to fit whatever twisted kind of belief they have. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to be able to open a book and say, oh, Abraham had 3 wives, or, Joseph had, wives, or Solomon had a bunch of. It doesn't take a genius to know that polygamy was in the book and, Old Testament, New Testament, whatever. But I think when it becomes something that isn't supported by the book, like the portion that says, if I can have as many women as I want, I'll at some point become a god. That's not in the book.
No.
So I think,
the conflict is always people who say, I answer only to the laws of God and not the laws of man, and if not, we don't exactly know in every instance what the laws of God might be, but we do know what the laws are in Texas, for example. And what really came out of Jeff's trial was that we knew he had all these wives and he was interacting with adult women, but we really didn't know that he was a pedophile, that he was using that ranch down in Texas and that temple to basically instruct girls under 15 and under, to have sex with him. I mean, he was grooming them for that process. And they were underage in Texas and most other places. And that was what was really, I think, kind of startling that came out of it, because he wasn't just preying on older women, but he was preying on underage women as well. And, telling them that he called having sex with him a heavenly session. He recorded these sessions, and the Texas Rangers, when they raided that ranch in 2008, recovered all of this material, and that's what brought him down, the fact that he had written all this down to glorify himself and tape recorded it.
Wow. So why did the Texas authority, treat him differently than Arizona or Utah? Well,
Texas has been much more aggressive in its law enforcement. That one of the major problems with prosecuting anyone in the FLDS has been that the women will not testify against them in many cases, because their families will throw them out, their community will throw them out, there's pressure put on them. There are several examples in the book of women who came right up to the point of getting into the courtroom to testify against some of these men, and then they broke down and they wouldn't do it because there was too much pressure. Nobody testified against Jeff. This was all based upon his own DNA evidence used to impregnate this 12-year-old girl, and these things that he had written down and recorded. So they didn't have to rely on the testimony, and that made it much easier to convict him. Plus the fact that he had, I believe, 7 different attorneys, and he fired them all. So instead of representing himself in court, he just kind of stood up and he told the judge that, that God would strike her with a crippling disease and that she would be dead pretty quickly.
What?
So that it was one of the most bizarre legal cases probably ever in American history.
Right, and it says that the jury deliberated for less than 30 minutes before handing down the maximum possible sentence he could get, plus 20 years. They said he'll be out, or he'll be eligible for parole when he's 100.
Yeah, this is a classic example of the misuse of religion, to prey upon girls and actually boys as well. I mean, he did a lot of terrible things to boys as well as girls, but in terms of sexual predator behavior, this is the classic example of it, where you use religion to bring people in and then do anything you want with them.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think he brought a bad name or put a stain on the relationship that is, the institution that is polygamy? Because wouldn't polygamy be as old of an institution as monogamy?
Yes, and I believe, some women say that are in polygamous relationships with men that they like that and they prefer it, and I believe that. I believe we're all very different from one another, and some people find that a very secure relationship. There are always many, many children in these situations, and if there are more women to raise the children, some women prefer that. I believe that, and I think, among consenting adults, there are aspects of that are probably beneficial. This is about, specifically, the story is about criminal behavior. That's where the rubber meets the road here.
Right.
That if you're taking a 12 or 13-year-old girl who has been possibly sexually abused inside of her own family and then forcing her into marriage at that age, I mean, what choice does she have?
Right.
She doesn't even know, as I point out again and again in the book, that laws are being broken here, that you have legal recourse, that the state should enforce those laws as it would in Denver, where I am, or Los Angeles, I believe, where you are.
Exactly.
And the whole thrust has been to get law enforcement to say, hey, these people have rights. They're equal citizens under the Constitution of the United States, and they should be protected under the law. And this has been a massive, massive struggle to bring Jeff down. He was convicted in Utah in 2007. The conviction was overturned on a technicality. Arizona was going to charge him, but as I said earlier, they couldn't get any of the women to testify against him. So it's taken, he's had basically a reign of terror over that community for about 12 to 15 years. It's taken a long time to bring him down, and that happened last week.
Wow. Well, Mr. Singular, Stephen Singular, I thank you very much for coming on The Voice of Reason. Do you have a website people can go and get your book and all of that?
www.stephen, STEPHEN, singular, SINGULAR.com.
Well,
so,
let me just say, man,
I'd appreciate it if you'd go to the site and write me an email and give me your thoughts.
Yes, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. There's very much information that you shared with us, very good stuff. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming on The Voice of Reason. We got to move to the next movement here. Listen, we got another great author on deck, but before I get to her, we got some Twitter responses, right? Let's see, this brother at The Real D Rob says, referring to if men could participate in polyandric relationships. He said it's a different dynamic. It's chips and dip. Many chips in one dip spoils the dip. One chip can enter many dips and cannot spoil the dip. I get the metaphor. I get it. Hysterical. Let's see, who else is this? At Midnight Calm. I think polygamists are freaks using religion to have multiple partners. Right? Okay. Do you agree or disagree? Somebody call me right now, 855-369-9898. And listen, like I said earlier, regarding bigamy just means, what are you doing? You're cheating outside of your committed relationship, right? Right. So you're married to one person, but then you got this secret situation over here, and maybe you go marry that person secretly of, you don't know about that. The person you marry, the second person you marry, doesn't know about your first wife. That would be bigamy. But I think we're all practicing a form of that. I think we all are. All the cheaters out there. My homeboy Noel Biederman, who owns AshleyMadison.com, that's a whole website dedicated to married people who want to cheat. Is that not a bigamous, website? And he's making millions of dollars. It's like a eHarmony for married people who want to cheat and have the motivation to keep it quiet. Let's go cheat over here at this Cheaters Club, the Bigamist Club. Let's start a new website, the Bigamy Club. Who knows? 855-369-9898. That's the number to dial. I'm urging you to call 855 because, I let my callers get on and speak their piece. Listen, if you've escaped one of these places, if you've been in a religion or a situation that, had polygamy that was forced or whatever, come on. Call me right now, 855-369-9898. That's the number to dial. Let me get another tweet. At D. Melton Jr. Another dude laying pipe down on a girlfriend is bad enough, but a wife equals hell to the nah. He wrote that. At Rob Huntsville says, you can't love more. He says, so you can't love more than, how do you write that? You can't love more than one wife? Okay, there you go. Because one ain't in there. So you can't love more than one wife. That means you can't love more than one child either. Love knows no limits is what he's saying. He's asking the question, but my question is, at the end of the day, we are interfacing through beliefs and ideas. And I always say, a relationship works when everybody is in agreement. It's all in agreement. This is crazy. We got another guest on right now. We've got callers. I think I'm going to go to one caller before I go to my guest. No? My producer says no. Okay, here we go. We're going to callers. Lawrence from Nevada, Charles from Ohio. I want you to hold on because I'm going to get to you, okay? All right. Who do we have here? This is our author friend who's on with us right now. She's been, receiving several awards, including the 2004 Willa, the Utah State Publishing Prize, 3 first prizes from the Utah Arts Council, 2 Distinguished Journalism Awards, and a Governor's Media Award for Excellence. Apparently, she wrote a great book, Daughters of the Saints, Growing Up in Polygamy. This is people, y'all need to know it's a real situation that's going on right now. Y'all need to check it out. And just because you didn't sneak off, right, and secretly marry somebody else while you're married, to me, I still look at it as bigamy if you're cheating, right? Do you have to marry them in order for it to be bigamy? That's why I say sometimes we so rigid within these little beliefs and ideas that we create a gray area in order to do what we really want to do. 855-369-9898. Let me just bring in my author, Daughter of the Saints, Growing Up in Polygamy, Dorothy Allred Solomons, right?
That's right.
Come on in and talk to me about this polygamy dance.
Well, thank you so much. I don't do the polygamy dance anymore, except in my relationships with my siblings, respecting the way of life that they've chosen. But I was born into a family of 7 mothers, and my father, who was a doctor, believed that it was his responsibility to bring as many souls into the world as he could in these last days of the earth. And I am very grateful that I was born, and I'm grateful for my parents' conviction, but I chose not to live that way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I decided when I was very young, I think I was about 3 years old, when I decided while I was playing dress-ups that there would only be one bride at my wedding, and that I wanted my husband to be focused on me. And so, of course, I didn't fit very well in this family where everyone was involved in supporting each other in this plurality. I was allowed, however, to make my own choice, not without a lot of pressure and not without a lot of disappointment on my parents' part, but I was allowed to go ahead and, when I was a young woman, to choose to marry monogamously. And it was really important that as I left the fundamentalist group that I belonged to, I had my parents' love. even though I chose not to walk in their footsteps.
Now, really quickly, you weren't a part of the same group as Warren Jeffs, were you?
Actually, I am related to Warren Jeffs through marriage. Warren Jeffs' aunt was my father's sixth wife. And so 3 of my siblings are in the FLDS group, and I'm very worried about them.
Wow. Listen, we got to take a quick break, but I want my callers, I want Dorothy, I want everybody to hold on to the edge of their seat. Trust me, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 2.2 seconds. The voice of reason, 855-369-9898. Foxxhole on fire. Ladies and gentlemen, Zomipi is rising back in the building. Jay-Z loves girls, girls, girls. What category would that song fit in? Is he a bigamist? Is he a polygamist? Is he just into polyamory? Somebody talk to me right now, 855-369-9898. If you're just tuning in to the voice of reason on Foxxhole Radio, Sirius XM 98, we're talking about sister wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriage, and group marriages. It's a crazy topic, 855-369-9898. That's the number to dial. My special guest online with me right now is Dorothy Allred Solomon. She's on with me right now. She wrote an incredible book. We're going to get into that in a second, all right, in a second. But let me get to a caller right now. Philip from South Carolina, talk to me. You say bigamy is not cool. Go deeper.
It's not cool. I think once you get married and you have a wife, you should pretty much marry the person you're going to be kind of best friends with. It's hard not to cheat, hard not to chase, because, women are beautiful, but when you get married, you make a commitment in God's church or wherever you decide to get married, however you decide to get married. It should be with one person, because if it was you being cheated on, you wouldn't like it if it was you and you found out about it. You hurt the person. I've been married 33 years, the same woman, and that's my best friend.
Have you ever cheated on her?
No. Never thought about it.
And never thought about it. At least think about it. Come on, Philip.
I mean, you see them, you see a nice way there. It's nice, but I wouldn't want that pain on my wife's face, knowing she found out or whatever, or put it through stuff, and it's not cool, man. You got to marry your best friend. I'm a professional musician. I travel a lot. She goes on the gigs with me, and we just have fun, make vacations, and you got to keep your family life happy. You got to do certain things. I put roses on the bed. I massage feet.
Philip, do you remember the movie Mo Better Blues?
Yeah.
All right. Are you the guy who brought the girl into the dressing room? Anyway, thanks for the call, Philip. I appreciate you reaching out. We got another Twitter response at BTouch regarding if men can handle sharing a wife. He says, some already do. Shout out to Lewis Dix. Just kidding. Aw, damn. Well, I can't let you do my homeboy like that. We don't appreciate you bashing on Lewis like that. Call me right now, 855-369-9898. That's the number to dial. We're talking about sister wives, man, and polygamy and polygyny and plural marriage. We've got a great, great author guest on right now. She's related to Warren Jeffs, who was sentenced to like a gazillion years in prison for having 78 plural wives. And now we don't know how many children he has, but she's related to him, and she sounds like somebody who has escaped. If you want to participate, if you want to ask her questions, call me, 855-369-9898. Dorothy.
Yeah.
Let's go deeper into your experience. How were you ostracized when you decided to leave?
Well, there were some people who really judged me and kept me at arm's length, and those who loved me continued to love me, even if they were disappointed in my decisions. One of the things that marks my experience as being very different from people in the FLDS community is that my father really honored free agency. And in fact, when I told him that I was going to be publishing a story that was about our family, he really surprised me by giving me his blessing and asked one thing, that whatever I wrote, and somehow he knew I was working on my first book, In My Father's House, which was the first insider account of Modern Day Polygamy, published in 1984, and it's just been re-released. And he gave me his blessing to tell the truth and encouraged me to let people know that we really went through the things we did, that we really lived this way. Unfortunately, he was murdered 8 months after that by another polygamous faction, and that's what's wrong with polygamy. It's outside the law, and because of that, everybody who lives that way is subject to criminals, to people who like living outside the law, either because they like to exercise power over others, like the man who engineered my father's death, or like Warren Jeffs, who uses religion to satisfy his lust. Basically, in the way I grew up, the principle of plural marriage was simply to bring children into the world who would be righteous and who would obey God. It wasn't about having a good time, even though I think my family had a healthy attitude towards sex. It just doesn't mesh well in a monogamous society and not in a Christian society. The LDS Church outlawed polygamy in 1890 and forbids its members to live that way under pain of excommunication. So it's no longer subsidized as a belief system in the LDS Church.
But Dorothy, I'm confused because in my research it says that, and please break down the acronym LDS really quick. That's Latter-day Saints, correct?
Yeah, it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Got it.
That's what LDS stands for, and people sometimes call it Mormon.
Right. So I'm confused a little bit because in my research it states that that is how men, by gathering all of these wives and having all of these celestial sex, celestial marriage, this is how the LDS members or the men can attain godhood. So if that's true, how could they outlaw that portion? Because wouldn't that be an extremely important part of their belief structure?
Well, actually, the way the scripture reads is a little bit open to interpretation, and what it really says is that celestial marriage is the way we can reach godhood, and celestial marriage can be monogamous or polygamous. And after the church outlawed polygamy, there was a manifesto that all the membership agreed to, at least everyone present agreed to, and it was no longer a principle that was exercised. It may have been believed in, but it was no longer practiced with church approval. Now, that is a really great question because in many ways the principle of plural marriage allowed the church to thrive even though so many people died crossing the Great Plains, even though the LDS people had been hounded from state to state and forced to immigrate, even though their prophet was assassinated in his prison cell, even though all these awful things happened and 500 men in this young church went off with the Mormon battalion. Because of plural marriage, women were cared for, children were raised, and the church survived that really difficult time. But then, as happens sometimes in the animal kingdom, geese who are basically monogamous, will become polygamous for a season if the population is dying.
Wow.
And, then when that season is over, they return to their native monogamous being.
Wow.
So there is a kind of natural law that seems to dictate how populations behave. And I think the LDS people really were in tune with some sort of divine. Well, I believe that.
So you're still a follower of the Mormon faith.
I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Got it. So this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to take 2 callers right now. But after I come back from those callers, I want you to answer this question for me. Do you think polygamy should be legalized? 855-369-9898. Okay? Do you think polygamy should be legalized? That is the question. I'm going to come to you right after I deal with these two callers. Charles from Ohio, you want to reference the Bible and the Quran, right? Talk to me.
Yeah, you know what? Once again, always we pick and choose what we want to talk about as far as religion. But in both, and not the Quran, the Torah, and the Bible, it says in some point in reference that every man should have 7 wives for their self. I'm not saying everyone has to follow that, but we always pick and choose what we want to talk about. Is it right or wrong? I don't know. But I'm saying don't pick and choose what we talk about and then make an issue about it. That's wrong because it's misleading as far as a subject or a topic. That's what I got to say.
No, go deeper, Charles. What should we talk about? Or what aspect are we leaving out?
Okay, are we leaving out the fact that, like, 3,000 years ago, somebody, some person, some being, somebody said, hey, you know what, there are more women on the earth than there are men, and so we have to equally divide that. Look, I wasn't there. I don't know. But if you read either one of the 3 major books, it says that right there.
So are you pro-polygamy? Are you pro-polygamy? Are you saying it's a good thing?
All I'm saying is that, in some instances, it can stop all what people consider cheating and this, that, and the other. And look, I'll say that for one religion, I won't name it, but one religion says that, if you marry 1 or 2 wives and you treat each one of them equally, you stop all the polygamy and you stop all the extra stuff.
You talking about Islam?
Yes, I am.
It's all right. You can say what you want here, Charles. That's why I want you to take the floor right now.
Yes, I am. And what it says is that if you treat one wife a particular way 3 days a week or 4 days a week, you have to treat the other wife the same way. And that cuts down on all the extra stuff. And it says you have to treat each one of them the same.
That's damn near impossible, though. That's hard.
I know it is almost impossible, but you should treat each one the same.
Wow.
That's different than I'm going to marry 18 wives and then I'm going to have a bunch of kids, and then that's not the same as, hey, I treated wife 1 as the same I treated wife 2. That's different. Then I got 14 wives and I got 78 kids. That's different than I treated wife 1 the same way I treated wife 2. And if for whatever reason my sex drive or whatever situation may be that I need an additional wife, and then I treat wife 1, 2, and 3 the same way, that's different. And I got 15 wives, and 15 wives, I got 49 kids and 18 grades. That's different.
I get what you're saying, man, and I appreciate the call. Thank you for reaching out. Hey, man, this is good stuff. A lot of people here, have very strong opinions. My question is, what about the Nation of Islam? What about the Nation of Islam? Malcolm was disappointed with Elijah for having a bunch of wives with a bunch of children. And it was reported or rumored, I don't know, I wasn't there, I was born many, many, many years afterwards, but it was reported and rumored that some of those women were underage. So, and that was, it was reported that that's why Malcolm left. But I always said Islam is a polygamous religion, And when I say polygamous religion, it means polygamy is allowed. Right? It's allowed. And in the Islamic culture, a lot of times a guy would take on wives, or an extra woman if, his brother died and he takes, that his brother's wives or, it's a cold situation. It was a cultural thing and it was partly based on necessity. I don't know. Somebody call in and shed light. 855-369-9898. That's the number to dial. I got to take one more caller. My producer is saying I got to hold on 1 second. We got to take another break. 855-369-9898. That's the number to dial. Tweet me at Foxxhole, Foxxhole. Call me right now, 855-369-98. What is Lil Wayne talking about? Let's hear it. Woo! The voice of reason is on fire right now. We talking about sister wives. We talking about polygamy. You hear all the references to it. Polygyny, bigamy, right? Plural marriage, open relationships. Hey, if you down with open relationships, call me right now. If you're in a successful open relationship, call me right now, 855-369-9898. That's the number to dial, 855-369-9898. Tweet me at ZoWilliams. I'm reading all your tweets. I got a stack of tweets. Let me just say the phone lines are on fire. Nevada, Florida, Illinois, Atlanta, Canada, California. We're all over the map right now. Callers, hold tight. I'm coming to you. I want your opinion. Be patient with me. I'm going to let you have the floor. 855-369-9898. That's the number to dial. Sister Wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriages, and group marriage. That's what we're doing on The Voice of Reason right now. Let me get back to my author, Dorothy Allred Solomon. Tell me about that answer. Do you think polygamy should be legalized? What is the problem? Talk to me.
It's a great question, and wish I could give you a simple answer, but just to sum it up, I don't think it should be legalized all at once, and I don't think it should be legalized without careful regulation. We already have too many deadbeat dads. We don't need a lot more children who are not being cared for because of legal polygamy. However, decriminalizing polygamy is a really good idea. It's really important that children not have to grow up like I did, learning the Ten Commandments and at the same time learning to lie about my family so that I didn't get my mother and father in trouble and get pulled away from my parents and have them sent to prison, which actually happened to my father. So we lived with the threat of raids or polygamous roundups, and I'd hate to see that happen to any more children.
Wow. Let me just say I really appreciate you coming on The Voice of Reason. Your information was priceless. Do you have a website? Where can people buy your book, In My Father's House? Where can they find you and connect to you and get your information? Because I urge people to read, learn. Her book is called Daughter of the Saints, Growing Up in Polygamy. If you want to know more about this information, please reach out to the sister. Talk to me about where they can find you, Dorothy.
Okay, it's www.dorothyallredsolomon.com is my website, and you can get it on Amazon as well, any of my books on Amazon.
Wow, I appreciate you. You were a wonderful guest, and all of my millions of followers and fans will be following you and catching up with you and hopefully sending your book to #1.
Thanks so much, Zoe. You've been a great host.
All right, thank you very much. Let me go to some callers real quick because you guys have been very patient with me, and I appreciate that. The phone lines are open. If you want to get down, let's get down. 855-369-9898. That's 855-FOX, Fox 9898. Omar, Illinois, what's your polygamy theory?
Well, it's a pleasure to be on your show and listen to all the different opinions. I'm American Muslim, and Charles from Ohio made the statement that Muslim men can have 7 wives, which that is true. But what he didn't understand was that a man have to be able to take care of each one of those wives in separate houses. They cannot all live in one house.
Mm.
And
what style of Muslim are you? Is it are you Sunni? Are you Shia? What are you?
I'm Sunni like the Arab.
Got it.
And plus the lady that made the comment that polygamy should have stipulations and stuff like that. I agree on the deadbeat fathers because there's too many men in America that have kids but don't honor the word of father. They don't know what the word means.
Mm. Wow. Appreciate the call, Omar. Illinois is in the building because of you. G-Rod from ATL. Just let people be. Do their own thing is what you're saying. Talk to me about that.
What's up, Zoe, baby?
What's happening, Mike?
You got it. Hey, man, let me put this down to you real quick. Me and old girl, man, we was listening to your show a while back, the one you was doing on the Christians and all that. Mm-hmm. The way you was breaking it down, man, to all them and, spinning the Bible back this way and that way, that's what it is with everything, man. It's a choice. You get what I'm saying? Some people was getting mad at you the way you feel, and that wasn't cool, because I respect your show. Because one thing that I know, I got a friend, man, that got married about 2 years ago. The same pastor that married him, man, was messing with his wife in the church a year after that. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think that does to faith? You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, go ahead, G-Rod. Go ahead.
Say it again?
You were breaking up just a little bit. Say your last statement, please.
Oh, I said, so where do you think that puts a person's faith, in their mind when the pastor's messing with your wife, man? He married you, and then he's messing with your wife. You get what I'm saying?
Wow.
But on the polygamy thing, let me go this real quick. I know you got to roll out, man. I love your show.
Appreciate it.
Nowadays, it's so hard, man, to find love anywhere. So if somebody agree and they're of age to be in a relationship like that, and everybody's respected and everything's cool, so what? So what? You get what I'm saying? And
right. If they agree with it, leave them be. Allow them to live the life they chose to live. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying if the man ain't beating them and dogging them, hey, you know what? Hey, everybody's looking for love in a certain way. But one more thing I do agree with. I don't think they should be making a gang of kids, because one thing Zoe, and you said it on your show once before, if you don't have time to put in with a child, that child's going to just be out here in the world and it'll fall for anything. You get what I'm saying?
Wow. Appreciate that, man. Great information. G-Rod from ATL, man. Thanks for calling in for the first time. Troy from Canada, let's go.
Yeah, man. How you doing?
I'm
Love
good.
your show, Zoe.
Turn your radio down just a taste, bro.
All right. Love your show, Zoe. Love your show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
I listen
it.
to you every night. Now, with this idea of polygamy, monogamy is a choice. That's not monogamy is a choice. That's something that we're all, guided to do, but it's not human nature to be monogamous. Everything that we do is based on sexuality in our society. Everything.
Wow.
The way we dress. Yeah. Everything we do is designed to attract the opposite sex. So and marriage, the sanctity of marriage, does not change that. Married men are being polygamous, period, because they go into hoes, they go into strip joints, that's not monogamy.
That was the point I made earlier. I made that point earlier. Go deeper, brother. Go deeper. You've got the floor.
If people choose, and deception is the issue. When men are running around, sneaking around, and on their women and deceiving them and mistreating them, well, yeah, anybody would have a problem with that. Man, woman, anybody. But if you're in an open relationship and it's all on the table, and we agree to do whatever we're doing, and I'm happy in my situation, why shouldn't I be able to choose to do that?
Wow. Thanks for the call, man. That's good. That's good stuff. Go deeper. Finish your point.
That's one thing. But if I'm happy and what I have works for me, it doesn't matter what he or she thinks of it. It's me. It's my life that I'm living. And in this country, we're supposed to be able to do that. In Western society, we're supposed to be able to do what we want to do.
Wow. Well, within the frame of law, you have to understand there's two different definitions. The legal term, freedom and liberty, are two different things. The legal term for freedom means free, unencumbered, no restrictions whatsoever. But what Americans have is called liberty. And that, by legal definition, Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, breaks it down simply as freedom within restraints. And that restraint would be the law of whatever state or country you live in. So we have liberty, not freedom. So we're not totally free to do whatever we want, which is why we have laws, and which is why those laws can be broken. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Ro from California, I got to get to you. You've been online for a long time. Talk to me.
Hey, how you doing, Zone? Check this out, man. Now listen, the Mormon faith is deep. The Mormon faith is deep. It gets real deep. You know Gladys Knight is a Mormon. She's a devoted Mormon now.
Really?
And, yes, and I do a lot of being up in Utah. I'm a truck driver. I work for some Mormons. They're good people, but to a certain extent, they're prejudiced people. And that's
what do you mean, to a certain extent? I hate to cut you off. You know what? You're right. They are. Do you know the history of how they view black people? If you do, I would love for you to share it.
Yeah, they are prejudiced people. Now, you can go to work for them, but if you come up in that restaurant or whatever like that, they looking at you like, what are you doing here? And it trips me out that you got black folks that live up there and act like they're in with them. And I'm from California, so when I go out there, I trip out. Now, listen to this. Now, you know the Mormons is the ones that went over to the Polynesian islands and kind of got them going because, they were like into incest and stuff like that, and they Christianized them and brought them over to the United States. If you go up to Utah, there's a big Polynesian up the Samoans, the Tongans, and all that. You know what I mean? They did that. They got away from polygamists when they were, back in the early days, and so they went over to the Polynesian island and did the same thing, and that, got them to, that's wrong. That's why you get a lot of them Polynesians with them, they look kind of, big and stuff like that. But anyway, they are prejudiced people, and it trips me out that Gladys Knight is a Mormon. And as far as polygamous, I don't see in the Bible when we talk about Jesus and when we see all these Jesus souls, Jesus wasn't walking around with 4 and 5 wives and 7 wives. Now he had Mary Magdalene, which was a prostitute, But I mean, religion is deep, man. Religion is really deep. It is. And,
it is.
Mormon people is a trip, man. I get out there. There's one thing about a Mormon now, they're about that money. You go up there to Utah, they got some money. And they own a lot of stuff in California, too. But it trips me out that Gladys Knight is a Mormon.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I'm tripped out, too, but thank you. And it isn't just because of Gladys Knight. I mean, if you go back and research the history of how they talk about the creation of black people, it's crazy. Of course, their history says that God, Elohim, had 2 sons, Jesus and Lucifer. Right, yes, Jesus and Lucifer were brothers. And basically, they were saying, you know what, we got all of these spirit children. We want to send them to this new place called Earth, and we need somebody to go down there and be the ruler and the god of them. And Lucifer was like, let me be the dude, because I'll teach them all how to be gods. And then Jesus was like, nah, that ain't the way to go. They should have free will. And Lucifer was mad because, their father, God, Elohim, and the council of cats agreed with Jesus, and they chose Jesus to be the representative. So Lucifer convinced a third of them, this is the 200 fallen angel story, convinced a third of them to rebel with him. Then they got sent to earth as disembodied souls, never to be incarnated in physical form. And the people who sided with God in Jesus, they were turned white and delightful. That's what the scripture says, white and delightful. Their scripture, the Book of Mormon, white and delightful. And the people who remained neutral, and they talk about like the angel cats, the people that remained neutral, they were cursed with black skin. And this is where the Negro race came from. I mean, it's just a mess. 855-369-9898. I've got to get to my author. Callers, I'm coming back to you. 855-369-9898. Hold on. I'm going to get to you. I need your opinion. We've got another great author in the building. She's a PhD. She's a cold piece of work. I always like to call those authors that, cold pieces of work, right? She wrote a good book here. What does polygamy look like? Polydiverse patterns of loving and in living, right? This is a cold situation in modern polyamorous relationships. You gotta get her book. I'm telling you right now, you gotta get her book. Her name is Mim Chapman. She is an educator, a learner, and an agent of change. Her work experience includes commercial fishing, civil rights activism, marine salvage. Man, she's as complex as a Rubik's Cube, but I like those kind of people. Mim, welcome to the Voice of Reason. Mim Chapman, PhD. Talk to the millions of people who need insight on polyamory.
Well, thank you. I certainly appreciate you welcoming me to the show, and I've been enjoying listening. My book, What Does Polyamory Look Like?, is a way of helping us kind of expand the sense of what are our options. You've been talking about Mormonism, at least the part I've been listening to, and polygamy. And one of the first things that people ask me when I do workshops on polyamory is they say, wait a minute, what is this polyamory? Well, I get poly, that probably means more than one, and amor is love. So polyamory is loving more than one. And just like one of your callers just said, there's so much going on that isn't honest. The cheating, the running around. And, polyamory, I sometimes say the only thing really radical about polyamory is the honesty part. Because polyamory is a life choice. It says when you form a partnership, are we going to commit that we're going to be till death do us part? Some people choose that, and that's really great if it works for them. Other people, a lot of the people I knew, meet somebody, they say, hey, I really have a heart connection with you. I really feel that we have something that we can grow together and add to each other's lives. But, in my way of seeing the world, love does not equal ownership. And, with somebody, I'll go to a party and somebody say, and who do you belong to? And I say, wait a minute, didn't slavery go out a few years ago? And in our society, so much of what we believe about relationships is that love means I own you. And, we all sort of know, no one person can meet all of my needs. I can't meet all of their needs. And so people who choose polyamorous relationships in a wide variety of ways of doing them, both women and men, say, I love you, but I also love other people, and I want the freedom to love other people, and hopefully each new person we bring into our lives enhances all of our lives.
So let me ask you, ma'am.
But we really help each other's lives out. So that's kind of how polyamory is different from sort of classical or Mormon polygamy.
Wow, this is so interesting. We've got a gang of callers. I want you to talk to some people, but we have to take a quick break. I have so many questions for you. My mind is swimming right now. You have hit me upside the dome. I love it. 855-369-9898, the Foxxhole, the most unique radio in the world. Trust me, you'll never get another experience like this. Tune in every Thursday to the Voice of Reason, Sirius XM 98, 855-369-9898. I'll be back in 2.2. Check out the sound. Other people's pee. Wow. Tonight's topic, sister wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriage, and group marriages. We're talking about open relationships, polygyny, bigamy. We're talking about all of these different terms, and we're trying to come to terms with them. Polyandry, polyamory. We got a great guest on, PhD, Mem Chapman. She wrote a book called What Does Polyamory Look Like? Polydiverse Patterns of Loving and Living in Modern Polyamorous Relationships. This is a cold situation. I mean, I'm blown away. Dude, can you have multiple soulmates? I mean, who out there believes that? 855-369-9898. Before I get back to Mem Chapman, I'm going to hit up a couple of callers. But before I get to my callers, I just want to read a couple of tweets. At Masked Talent regarding should polygamy be legalized. Hell nah, man. Chill. No, fall easy. You fall easy. I read it online. I read it on air. But no, you fall easy. Anyway, at Big Ren Zom, I believe it is unnatural for women to want more than one seed in her. But for men, it's the opposite. We need to spread in many gardens. He's a gardener. At That's So Raven 22, regarding should polygamy be legalized? Only on the weekends. Okay. At Celebrity with an S, regarding would you participate in polygamy? Somebody says absolutely. Wow. At I Valentine's, regarding would you participate in polygamy? Sure would, as long as everyone is clear that I was here first. Equal bottom bitch. Equal respect my position. Wow. There is a hierarchy amongst the sister wives, I hear. I hear that. At Chase Michelle, regarding rationale that people want to bring as many souls into the earth as possible. That's fine. But what are they doing for the souls when they get here? Okay, good point. At Black's Cobra 1 Zoe, to me, all this is brainwashing and a new pimp game, having all these wives, and I only see white women caught up in this. That ain't true. Please don't get it twisted. That ain't true. At Miss Jocelyn DeVoe, regarding would you participate in polygamy? Somebody else says, hell yes. At ZoWilliams, follow me on Twitter. Anyway, at Victoriously, how do you say this? Victoriously me. There you go. At Victoriously me. I think I'm coming down with a speedy flu. Regarding would you participate in polygamy? No, I couldn't imagine having more than one husband. Brother husbands ain't the biz to invest in. That's what she says. At Arnell or at Ari Nicole 02. This topic makes me ill. Morals no longer exist. Let me ask the question out there. Is polygamy immoral? 855-369-9898. Call me right now. Tweet me at Foxxhole. I'm reading Twitters. And, of course, we have a wonderful author on deck, Mem Chapman, Ph.D. She wrote an incredible book. It has a very long title, but I urge you to go get it. She's going to tell you what it is in a second. At Intelligent Stud, regarding should polygamy be legalized? Yes, it should, along with gay marriage. Oh, Intelligent Stud. That would make sense. At Intelligent Stud. Yes, it should, along with gay marriage. If people are productive, law-abiding citizens to society, why not? So let me take a couple of callers, and then I'm going to get back to Mem. Cloud from Buffalo, you're on deck, man. Talk to me. Oh, he dropped. That's all right. Soul Food, Knoxville. African Americans embrace religion. Talk to me. What do you mean?
Yes, so can you hear me?
I can.
I really appreciate it. I'm on my Bluetooth. I'm a truck driver. I'm driving through Knoxville right now.
Okay.
What I was considering is I heard you talk about 3 books, but I was wondering if you heard of the book of the Coming Forth by Day.
Yes, the Book of the Dead, Egyptian Book of the Dead. Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what the opposition calls it, but that's not what our ancestors call
But that's what we know it by. But I know it by the title you gave, but most people would not.
Right. That would probably be a really great show some other time. The idea of polygamy, back as our ancestors left it for us, it wasn't a sexual or a lustful thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that had to do to build the community. So you had wives to have sons to create a greater working environment or a greater community, and that's what that at that time was all about. Now it's been twisted and transformed into something that we've been bred to believe and do. Of course, you can hear in all the music and just the way of life. And even when I listen to sisters and brothers talking about the idea of polygamy, it all seems to be based off of a sexual thing.
Right. So you're saying it's more of a spiritual connection. There's something deeper to it, not just the physicality. Appreciate the call. Thanks. Out of Knoxville. One last caller before I get back to my authors. Now we have 2 authors on, and we're going to really get into the meat and potatoes of this situation. Lorenzo from Texas. Talk to me, man.
Hey, Zoe, and hello, guest. I just wanted to ask the guest, do you think that divorce is like a form of polygamy, polyamory? You know, in other words, because we can't have an honest discussion with our significant others about you're not fulfilling my needs, so I need to go elsewhere, we just call it divorce now and then just move on.
Thank you for the call. Mem, would you like to field that question?
I think that's a really interesting point. In fact, a lot of people call that sort of serial monogamy. The wonderful thing about polyamory is I may have a lot of my needs met by one person, and I don't have to say, goodbye, I'm gone, to start a relationship with another person. And so it adds to your life rather than subtracting, and then it doesn't leave a whole string of broken hearts and deserted children, because I can add more loving people to my life.
Wow. And you know what's so interesting? And I know you might know about this, Mem, the ideal standards model in relationship. A lot of people don't understand that they're interfacing through beliefs. And I always say that the higher functioning relationships, beliefs are more flexible. And beliefs are more temporary. I've outgrown this belief, and I'm okay with outgrowing this belief, and I can discard this belief. I think the more traditional, the more concretized the belief, and I think that's what creates a lot of the problems in relationship, because whenever the ideas don't match up, now we have a problem. But if the ideas are flexible, and we can move them, and we can change, and we can evolve. Because if I've been with you for 15 years, I'm a different person at the end of 15 years than I was at the beginning of 15 years, correct?
Absolutely. That's what growth is all about. And so as I grow and I need new things in my life, or I'm interested in new things, you and I, we've been married for 15 years. We don't have to say goodbye. We can say, hey, here's Pete, and he loves salsa dancing. And, you're not so much into salsa dancing, but you don't mind if I go dancing with him because you know that we're all coming home and we're working on the garden together, and another pair of hands is a benefit to all of us, or whatever. That's pretty concrete. But we add to our lives rather than taking away from our lives.
Okay, so one more question before I bring in our next guest to join us here. Do you think jealousy in relationship is a manifestation of childishness or a kind of undevelopment, like an emotional retardation almost? Talk to me.
Well, in the poly world, we have a word that some people say is the opposite of jealousy.
Compersion. Let's go.
What that says is, if I love you and I see Mary really being joy into your life because she loves cooking and I don't, or whatever, it brings me joy to see two people who I love bringing joy to each other. And that's quite different from jealousy. To me, jealousy is one of those sort of umbrella terms that covers several things. Part is envy. Oh, you got something I haven't got. Part of it is insecurity. Oh, my God, she's prettier than I am. Part of it is fear of change. Oh, my God, I'm used to it this way. Why, something new might come. So there's all these different things that get lumped into jealousy. And one of the sad things, in our society, we're even told jealousy is a proof of love. Well, I think you're exactly right. Jealousy is a proof of perhaps insecurity, immaturity, but it's not a proof of love. Love to me is giving. Love is what I feel when someone I love is happy. So jealousy is a good question. Thank you.
This is great. 855-369-9898. ZoWilliams, the voice of reason. Foxxhole Radio. We're having a great time. If you've just tuned in, tonight's topic, Sister Wives, a spellbinding look into polygamy, plural marriages, and group marriage, and bigamy, and polyandry, and polyamory, and all the other polys that are out there. We're having a great time. We've got another special guest that's going to join me and Mim Chapman, PhD. Listen, this is crazy right now. I need you guys to get to your phone lines. Everybody's going to get a chance to talk. Just call me, 855-369-9898. Really quickly, let me give her a brief intro. She came from 5 generations of polygamy. As the second of 10 wives, she was the mother of 14 of her husband's 58 children. Her captivating story provides an intimate look at the daily struggles Irene faced as a plural wife. I'm not going to go any further. Wait a minute. She has 123 grandchildren and 68 great-great-grands. You better get to your phone lines. 855-369-9898. I'm busting at the seams to get her online. She is an author of a book called Shattered Dreams, My Life as a Polygamous Wife. Without further ado, please welcome Irene Spencer to the Voice of Reason. Let's go, Irene.
Thank you so much for having me. I beg to differ with the author that just spoke about jealousy, it being childness and insecurity, because if that's true, then God is very insecure and childish, because he said that he was a jealous God. And I agree.
I agree with that. But go deep.
I lived polygamy. I was a second wife, and I did feel jealous. I felt heartache. I was brokenhearted. And I think unless somebody's been there and done it, they really don't know what it feels like. But I will say that polygamy does not work. You just stuff all your feelings down and keep your feelings to yourself. And also the authors mentioned, or somebody mentioned when they called, said how it was for sex mostly. Well, I want you to know that most of these polygamists that I know of, and I'm related to almost every group that there is and have relatives in them, they don't even believe in having sexual intercourse except for procreation. And I myself had 3 children, and my husband had made love to me 7 times. He did not believe in, it wasn't for sexual, and it was for his believing that he was trying to serve his almighty Mormon God.
Well, let me ask you a question. Was there any intimacy? Did you enjoy the sexual intercourse?
Well, yeah, if you want to say that, he prayed about it and asked God to forgive us for what we're about to do and to not be lustful and one thing and another, and he was on and off and gone, and I was pregnant. I had 13 children by the time that I was 34 years old.
Mim, could you speak to Irene? Talk to us.
Yes, Irene, my heart goes out to you. And one of the things that's difficult for me as I'm sitting here is when I first came on, I tried to say, my book is about polyamory. And I really agree. It is very different in some ways, in many ways, from polygamy. I just hurt for you when you tell me of only having had sex 7 times in your life. And
no, that was with the first 3 children, and then I was ready to throw in the towel. I told him that whether they believed in divorce or not, that I was out of there. Yeah. And so he changed his mind. But polygamy, you cannot fulfill any of your desires because you have all these wives. I lived with 3 or 4 wives in the same house, and the most broken-hearted thing is knowing that your husband is in another room making love to another woman while you're doing dishes and trying to keep your mouth shut out in the bedroom, you know. And
so let me ask you, Irene, were you doing this for God? Were you doing this for your religion?
Oh, absolutely. We were taught that if we did not live polygamy, that we would go directly to hell.
Do you feel like do you feel like you're going to go to hell? Because you obviously got out, right?
Well, I did at one time, but I went through hell to get there. I actually had 9 nieces and nephews and 1 first cousin that committed suicide. And if you don't think that's the biggest heartbreak in your whole life.
Wow.
And then I had a brother-in-law that they call him the Mormon Manson, that actually fulfilled blood atonement, and he had 28 of our family and friends murdered, and that's what my second book, Cult Insanity, is about. But anyway, most of these groups, they place the girls, just place them, and they marry them off to men old enough to be their fathers or their grandfathers, and they have total control. I have one niece that her husband died, and the very night that they buried her husband, they took her and assigned her to and married her to another man because they believe that women cannot run their own lives. And I no longer will sit by and watch women and children being abused under the cloak of religion. And I feel that it's just got so out of control, especially with the Warren Jeffs. And I have 5 sisters that are in that group with Warren Jeffs. And so I've got nieces that were just married off. And it's broken my heart to see what they go through. And so many people say, well, why don't you just get out of it? How do you get out of it when you have no job skills? They tell you the outside world is wicked and that they were out to get you and to destroy you. I myself didn't even get a driver's license until I was 40 years old.
Wow.
And when you're living such a communes that they have, we didn't have any magazines, no newspapers. I lived 18 years in Mexico in the compound there without electricity, and I had no books. I had nothing to read. You're totally isolated, and your parents can't help you out because if your parents help you out, they run you out of the groups.
Wow.
And I have nephews that are lost boys, they call them, that were kicked out of the group there in Arizona, Colorado City, and one of them for kissing a girl, and another one for not cutting his hair as short as they wanted him to have it. And I'll tell you one thing.
Let me do this really quickly, Irene. Let me ask Mim a quick question. Mim, do you feel like this whole movement that she describes is devoid of love? Because that's the only thing. I mean, I hear people say they're doing it for God. But to me, I mean, I'm not a religious cat. I've always said I'm pro-God, anti-religion. You know, to me, God is love. And this just sounds like love is not a part of the movement here. What do you think, ma'am?
Well, I agree. I can't speak for, to me, every situation is different. And I'm sure that there are polygamous relationships where love is there. I can speak for my world, which is polyamory, and it's so different from yours, Irene, that I just wish I could send you a hug. In the polyamory movement, actually most of the leaders in the modern polyamory movement are women. Women they are egalitarian relationships, equal, where everyone chooses to be there, and they have choice over their partners, over their lives, over their goals in life, and whatever each person's or each family's religious beliefs are or are not is not why they do it. Polyamory is all about love. It's not about power, and it's not about religion. And
right.
The only thing that the 2 words have in in similarity is they both start with poly.
Right. So
well, you know,
Irene,
we're doing it for God, and the men are supposed to become gods, go and own their own worlds. And we were told that if we would uphold them and help them obtain at least 7 wives, and so that they could go to their own world and have all these children, that we would become goddesses. And they'd say, don't worry if you're unhappy in this life. It's like a drop in the bucket. You'll be happy in heaven. It's like forfeiting what you have here. And when you see the pain etched in these women's faces, when you see what they go through, and I did love my husband. He's the only thing I had. I loved him, but it tore me apart when I would see him run around with this woman and that woman, and
wow.
And I'd have to be there and see it, you know.
Well,
wow. So let me do this, ladies. Let me do this really quickly. I want you guys to interact with some of our callers. They're dying to talk to you guys. Are you guys down with that?
Yeah, I think that's great. I certainly am.
Mim?
I'm here with you.
Let's roll. Cloud from Buffalo. Let's keep it short. Hit us in the head with what you got to say.
Okay, what's going on, Zoe? Man, this is a really hard topic. I happen to think that, you know, polygamy and polyamorous relationship, it has less to do with it being so-called immoral in people's eyes and more to do with it being a money thing. So when you think about it, like, how can the government keep track of and tax these type of couples since they have to include, you know, their marriages on their returns or whatever? And the thing is, it's like with a polyamorous relationship, if it's done correctly, you're talking about people who can generate amount of household income that's crazy. They can own businesses together, separate businesses all at once, and that very well could be a step toward freedom as opposed to liberation, which as opposed to liberty, what we have right now. So,
wow, appreciate the call, man. Thanks again. Marisha from Houston, let's get at it.
I haven't caught the show much, but real quickly, I would like to say that you can justify this all that you want to. The bottom line is that if you are of God and you know what he means by the sanctuary of marriage, then polygamy is wrong. And no matter how you slice it, and if you feel that it's right, then you need to stay single and you need to play the field. Don't put God's name in it if it has nothing to do with it. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. But the Bible has numerous occasions of very highly favored people, men, by God, whether it's Jacob, Solomon, Abraham, the whole list of people who have multiple wives. And polygamy was there, and God didn't frown on it then. There's no verse in the Bible that says God ain't cool with polygamy. If it is, somebody call me right now, 855-369-98. I don't believe that there is. William from Atlanta, you're on the Voice of Reason. It's time for you to speak on it.
Good evening to both of you, and thank you for, I think this is a very timely topic. Actually, a group of my friends were just discussing this in the last week, and I just think that, you know, we have to kind of look at the situation that marriage is in right now and kind of weigh in as to why it is that we have such a high divorce rate of 50% or higher. And I don't understand why it's such a negative connotation for there being a polynumeral type of marriage situation between a man and a woman, or vice versa if that fits you. I just think it's very similar to gay marriage in that, you know, it's what fits the individual. It's what's good for the individual. And I think that as we become more accepting of that type of arrangement between a man and a woman, whichever direction it goes in, that I think society will benefit from it as a whole. And that's pretty much what I would like to say. Love the show, though. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Alicia from Alabama, who takes care of Irene's 14 kids is what you want to ask. Talk to me.
I was born and raised. I mean, I raised all my children in Mexico. We lived on a farm, milked cows, I grew gardens.
Irene.
We were not on the welfare at all.
Okay, Alicia, ask your question because Irene is on it.
That's fine that you weren't on welfare, but not just your children, just of the children in the plural marriages, not just financially, I mean emotionally. I mean, I'm a mental health therapist, so I'm just thinking, who takes care of the children emotionally?
Let me ask you this, Alicia, this is ZoWilliams. Are you saying because there's so many children and so much responsibility that some of those kids might fall through the cracks with regards to emotional nourishment?
Exactly. I'm just asking the question. I don't know. I'm asking the question.
Talk to us, Irene.
Yes, it is. I was the 13th of my father's 31 children, and he had 4 wives at the time that I was born, all living in the house, and we were lucky to be fed. We were emotionally neglected. I did fall through the cracks. Then I marry a man, and we're taught to just be obedient, to keep our mouths shut and do what they tell us to do. And pretty soon you're an emotional wreck. I have raised some wonderful children, and I have been through a lot in my life, but it has made me who I am. And I'll tell you one thing, if we learn to love ourselves, we would never allow anyone else to abuse us emotionally or in any other way. And I had to learn to love myself and think that I was worth something. And I was just wondering, could I give my website?
Absolutely. Give it to us.
It's www.irenespencerbooks.com.
You guys got to support her. You got to support Irene.
And I do want to correct you that you said I had 68 great-grandchildren. It's 86.
86. Wow. Let me ask you this really quickly, Irene. Do you think Mitt Romney has a chance to win the White House?
I really don't know. I don't follow that too much. I mean, he looks like a likable guy. My husband, that I'm married to, Hector Spencer, knew Mitt Romney's father, actually grew up with him, and he knew him, and he said they were a very fine family. Mm-hmm. But before everybody gets off the air, I just want you to know I've been there, done that. I have lived polygamy for 28 years, and it doesn't work. And I have a man now for 24 years that I'm the favorite, the one and only. And I married him. He was 65, and I was 51 when we got married. And some young girl wanted to know if she could come and marry him, too. She said, Irene, wouldn't you let me marry him? And I said, absolutely not. I said, when I get to be 65, there ain't enough to share.
Wow. Well, thank you, Irene, for coming on The Voice of Reason. I appreciate you. Everybody go out and support Irene. She's awesome. She was a great guest, and she's been through hell and high water. Irene Spencer, author of Shattered Dreams, My Life as a Polygamous Wife. Thank you for coming on The Voice of Reason. I got to end with Mem Chapman. Listen, Mem, can I ask you this really quick question?
Yes, you may.
How is misogyny and polygamy related?
Before I answer that, I'd like to do the same thing. I do relationship coaching for people in closed marriages that are saying we want to, in a loving, mutual way, open up our marriage. And so I'd like to give my website, too. It's memchapman.com, and my book, What Does Polyamory Look Like, is available on Amazon. And I think the biggest thing, that's such a big question. I'd love to have more time. I think the biggest thing is that in comparison to the question about how were all of the children cared for, polyamory, instead of many polyfamilies have actually been formed to provide more loving adults for the children. The ratio of adults to children in polyfamilies tends to be much stronger on the adult side. Instead of a family splitting up, they may add another partner, and so kids, instead of having, I've been an educator for years. I've seen a lot of kids who really were abused by neglect, latchkey kids with one parent. I had kids that were living in cars. They had no parents. In a polyfamily, the goal is to provide more love and really to build a community based on love. And I know we're almost out of time. I'd love to talk more about this.
This is crazy. You know what, Mem? You were a great guest. I really appreciate all of the authors who came on and shared their history. Man, this is a cold show, man. You got to call me. You got to reach out to me. ZO@SiriusXM.com. Email me. Give me all your information. For all the guests and authors that were on, I'm deeply appreciative. And again, I always tell people the relationship is what you agree to, right? And if you go into a situation and you're uncomfortable, you still get to rewrite the rules, right? Marriage is a legally binding contract. If you look up the word marriage in the Black's Law Dictionary, it means a contract. It's business. Your relationship, right? And I always tell people, your beliefs are like corporate bylaws, right? The corporate bylaws is what you agree to when you go into the relationship. Hey, I want to have kids. No, I don't want to have kids. Hey, I want exclusivity. No, I want it to be open to a certain point. Whatever you agree on, that is a reflection of your belief system. Let me just say, everything should be questioned. Everything should be questioned, and all of your beliefs should be temporary, in my belief. They should not be concrete to the point where they cannot evolve. Because you never know. You might have the same belief system you had when you were 25, and now you're 35 and you're a different person, and those beliefs are now like a tight sweater vest that you purchased with Speedy. It just doesn't work. Well, Speedy doesn't wear sweater vests. He's a little too big for that. That would be Louis Dix. But the point I'm making is these beliefs can become cumbersome. They can become tight and restrictive if you're continuously growing. And the problem is most people think that they're not growing because they don't feel it. But that's the way life works. It forces you to grow by making you face the flaws in the beliefs you currently hold. I'm ZoWilliams, the voice of reason. I like to do this. We had great guests. I appreciate you all. Follow me on Twitter at ZoWilliams. Go to my website, www.zowilliams.com. And next week, Thursday, I'll be in Washington, D.C. Come see me. I got an amazing show lined up. It's going to be bananas. Come see me, D.C., unveiling the Martin Luther King Monument. It's on and cracking. I'll see you next week. ZoWilliams is out. Peace.